I've said many times before on the show that I'm always in awe of people who write books. Somebody who sits down, who pens a book, and then is able to publish it and get it out there and influence people's lives, whether it is through business, whether it is a story that you're telling, whatever the means. I think it's just absolutely wonderful. I'm always amazed and in awe of that. And my guest this morning, Tamsin Haley, is currently writing a book. And you would think to yourself, now, why on earth is she coming in because while she's writing the book? Good morning, Tamsin. Tell me a little bit. I'm tripping over my words here. It must sound bizarre when you say to people, I'm writing the book. Let me tell you more about it because I want you to support my book.
That is exactly it. Yeah, morning. I think, really it comes down to the fact that my background is marketing and the book is about marketing. So we might as well market it. Otherwise, by the time we're ready for launch, no one's going to know it's even there. And absolutely. I think we do this with our businesses as well. We get everything perfectly lined up and then we expect people to be knocking on the door the day that we open for business, but nobody knows we're there yet.
It's a very good perspective on the whole thing. And so now I want to, the name of the book is very interesting. Tell us the name. You're going to say it first.
Yes, that's fine. So it's called Don't Be a Twatwaffle, 15 Marketing Mistakes You Can Avoid.
But who's the original Twatwaffle?
It's me, to be honest. So Twatwaffle comes from one of my friends at university. She was studying chemical engineering. And I mean, she was pretty much like one of the only women in the class with a whole load of men. So she'd often come out and be like, oh my gosh, they're all Twatwaffles. And I'm like, what is a Twatwaffle? And she explained it the one day. And it's really just somebody who pretends that they know more than what they really do.
Okay.
And pretends to be an expert. So I will never forget my dad's face. I started my business, which is Social Happiness, digital marketing agency. And I think I'd been running for about 8 months. And I was sitting at home at Brian with my parents. And I was like, it's been going okay, but I've got to figure it out and, sort of carry on. And my dad's like, well, what does your business plan say? I was like, what business plan? And he's an engineer himself. And he was like, what? What do you mean you don't have a business plan? So, I mean, I really do believe that if I'd had one in place rather than just how I did get started, we'd be a lot further along. Not that we aren't. I'm very happy with where my business is at. But
yes.
I think a lot of things could have been avoided and it could have been an easier journey. And that's really what the book is about as well, is taking a lot of the hurdles out of marketing your business out of the way for business owners and just trying to make it as easy to understand as possible so that they can get it right faster for better success.
But do you think you would have had this insight, this hindsight insight, if you had that business plan? Do you think you would be sitting here today? Because sometimes we really got to bump our heads to learn the lesson and then be able to share it with people. Do you think that you would have been sitting here had you had the business plan all beautifully worked out?
I think maybe I would have 7 of the 15 problems I'm solving, but not all 15. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's been interesting because it is, working with so many different kinds of businesses across different industries. You see patterns emerging out of how other people run businesses as well. So maybe I would have been able to come up with half of the issues. But some of them are definitely from my own experience and better learning of ways to do it properly. I mean, even as something as simple as clarifying your own marketing message. COVID was really good for us for that. I suddenly went, I need to make this a lot clearer, what we do, so that people understand.
And those lessons, I think, are so valuable to share. But I suppose sometimes you go through some of them and you think, I really didn't need this lesson.
University fees are expensive and hard, especially with the life ones. And exactly that. I mean, but what's I think great about it is when you do look back, and I'm experiencing that with the book now, is looking back on a lot of these things that have happened and going, I mean, at the time I was probably like arriving home and being like, it was a really hard day today. And I don't know why this is happening, but it's been so beneficial.
Apart from being clear on your message, what is one other thing that you've learned that you can share that's going to be in the book?
Definitely planning. Having a plan in place makes the world of difference. And even if you don't stick to that plan religiously, you've got something that you can always come back and measure your new opportunities against that arise in the world, or just check yourself.
Yes.
Or sometimes I think as business owners, we end up in a position where we're like, okay, so all the work's being done by the team. I've done all the things I said I was going to do. Now what? And if you go back to that plan, there's often things that maybe haven't quite happened yet, and that you can work on and develop your business further.
Keeps you focused on what you really want to achieve. And how far is the book?
About halfway.
Okay.
I've actually managed to get 2 chapters done this week, so I was quite impressed with myself so far. And I'm like, yes, it's only Thursday, so maybe I can squeeze another one in, I hope. I must say, I do have the person who's going to be editing my book is amazing. He's not only volunteered to edit it, but I get a weekly message.
Fantastic.
How's it going? Have you written this week?
So you've got a bit of a cheerleading squad going for you as well.
I do. And
I think that's so important, because do you find that while you're writing it, is there some doubt that creeps in? You mentioned earlier about being experts in your business. Sometimes I think a bit of imposter syndrome. Am I doing this right?
Yeah, that it is so real, and I don't think you ever get away from it. It's the gremlin in the corner.
Yeah.
And it's there. It helps to have the cheerleader. Cheerleaders, actually, I'm very lucky. I've got a lot of people who are cheering me on.
Fantastic.
And it's hard to keep on track. Especially, I think the main thing is really just finding a habit that works for you.
Yes.
Mine seems to be waking up early and writing it then, when the house is quiet, before the toddler is awake. That really works well. Except it's winter and it's cold, and I don't want to get out of bed right now.
I know, it's too cozy in Club Duvet, that's for sure.
Exactly that. So that's my challenge right now. But once I get over that, I think, when I do get over it, I can be very, very productive, which is great. I'm
speaking to Tamsin Haley, and it's all about how she's going about getting her book, Don't Be a Twatwaffle, published. It's not an easy thing to get a book published. Tell us what that part of this journey has been like for you. So I think publishing a book to me has felt a little bit like these other things in life, like how to get a job, or what does getting married even look like, or whatever, where it's like, well, there's this thing we've got to do, but where do you even start? Yes.
And that has been interesting. So luckily, and I think maybe this is my own, fault / benefit in life, I talk a lot. And I mentioned the idea for a book to a friend quite early on. And I've been like, I've got a title. I've written out the 15 problems I want to address. And I'd better start writing, but I don't actually know what else to do.
Yes.
And she knew someone who had self-published a book. She's like, can I please introduce the two of you, and you can go and have a cup of coffee? And this person very graciously said yes, and gave me an hour of her time, and I think I threw so many questions at her, and she actually just walked me through what she'd done and highlighted all the different parts. So that was really great and very helpful. So it was very much like, get it written.
Yes.
Start thinking about your editor, very important, and get somebody who can edit. Don't ask. So I work with editors all the time, but a social media post versus a book are two different things. So we want an editor who can work on a book. And then she was like, and you're going to need to lay out the book. And that was something I hadn't even thought of.
Okay.
So I was like, well, that's a very good point. You can't just sort of go, well, that's the Word document. It'll print well.
Yes, absolutely.
And then it was like getting the ISBN number. Again, something I hadn't thought about, and how to do that. And then actually with getting it printed, and who you could approach to print. Did you have to work through a publisher? The benefits of working through a publisher, doing it yourself. And she'd gone the bookshop route as well, so discussed that with me. Very helpful. And then, of course, the money to publish. That too. That is also a big, big challenge. What I want to know from you is, what sort of help do you still need with this book? Is there still assistance that you need with getting this book? And if somebody is sitting listening and they, number one, can help you, or number two, if somebody's sitting there thinking, I've always wanted to write a book, what would your advice be to them? Would you be writing another book on how to write a book? I'm not sure, but the one funny thing was, so laid everything up for book one, and then I was like, okay, I better start writing it. And then I started coming up with concepts for book two, so it's there. It's on marketing as well, but a slightly different angle of it. Maybe there is a decent version of how to write a book. Stephen King has actually done a very good book on that, so I think anybody who's interested in writing, grab Stephen King's How to Write, really, because it's the man himself. It's Stephen King. It's Stephen King. Yeah. Could you get any better? Maybe if it's voiced by Stephen Fry, then then happiness in a box. But that would be a really good starting point. And I think for me, what has been helpful is talking about it, because as I've talked about it, I've had someone volunteer to edit. I've had other people start telling their friends about it. I've got the cheerleaders. I've got the person who's going, how's your writing going?
Yes.
And just that accountability helps with the process, because it is hard to stick to it. The imposter syndrome is there. It is winter, all of those hurdles are there, but these things help. And the fact that there's a group of people that I know really are just rooting for me and would love to read it when it's done, make it worthwhile.
Absolutely.
And even if it's going to be 20 people to start with, that's brilliant.
Fantastic. I mean, 20 people till 20 people, and so it goes.
Exactly.
And so the marketing for the book, and I think that's a brilliant statement to make, the one that you made at the very beginning, that the marketing has begun before the book is even finished. And I think that's brilliant. Anybody listening and they'd like to chat to you, how can they get hold of you?
Perfect. So I'm talking a lot about my book on my official channel. So on Instagram, you can catch me at official Tamsin Haley, and it's Haley, Haley. I often get that one misspelled. Or you are also welcome to follow the business, which is Social Happiness. I'm going to be doing lots of announcements on there. And my next step is actually really to start planning sort of a pre-launch booking form. So you can prepay and book your book before it even launches. And there'll be digital format as well as published. And as I was mentioning to you off-air, I'd like to look at doing an audio version as well in the future.
When the sexy Tamsin voice is over.
Yes, when I'm not practicing for my other job.
She's had some flu before she came in, so hence the sexy voice. We all know that on radio that happens, and you've just got to ride the storm with it. So
exactly.
It's been really great to chat to you, Tamsin. Thank you so much, and I hope that once the book is published that you will let me know so we can get you back again and actually have a book in hand. It'll be absolutely wonderful. So thank you so much for joining me in studio this morning.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me.